everyone. I am live here at DigiMarcon and Texpo in Charlotte, and I've got another special guest here. So this special guest was also our MC yesterday, Michael Tucker. There's no R in that. It's not Trucker, by the way. And Michael's a great guy. He's very knowledgeable about a lot of different subjects, and that's actually how he's so good at Conversion Store, the company he's working with right now. And I have to say, it's a pleasure having him here. He also spoke last year. And so the more I speak with him, the more I'm like, he's very well-rounded, very well-mannered. So it's quite a pleasure to have you here on the podcast. I'd love if you could go into a little about your background, how you got into kind of the marketing world, and then maybe some fun facts about you to get started.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Jed. You know, I really appreciate being here, and I appreciate DigiMarcon being around. My background, gosh, I've been around for a long time in different corners of sales and marketing. Really, my marketing career in traditional marketing started around 2005. Really working in a number of different businesses, was in restaurant franchising and commercial real estate at one point. But, you know, the last 10 years I have been working in marketing technology. And a lot of that has been really driven by just the need that we see and the pervasiveness that we see around digital as a channel and a medium for companies to be able to grow their businesses. And so, all that sounds really complicated and really technical, but what it means in plain English is for a lot of marketing leaders, they're now reliant on being able to understand things like paid media, social media, my website, my email marketing, and my customer relationship management, my database, right? How am I keeping track of my sales pipeline and what kind of business I expect to come through this month, next quarter? All of that gets really technical. And so what we've aimed to do at Conversion Store is to kind of be that trusted advisor for chief marketing officers and for business leaders and people who are founders like myself, so that they have somebody who understands the technology, but then can come back to them in plain English and explain, what the heck does all this stuff do? Too many times we see that shiny object syndrome, where companies will just pile on technology after technology, and they don't understand what it's actually doing for them. The problem is when you go to your board of directors afterwards and they want to know, how are you driving value for your business? You sure need to be able to explain that in a meaningful way, or trouble happens. And so we want to be that trusted advisor, and we have been for the last 8 years, being able to help companies with whatever marketing technology that they use to be able to just hit home that value and bring that back to the personal level, and kind of take them through to some of the results that they're able to achieve in today's day and age, artificial intelligence or not.
So one thing I really like about your company is that you're working with people to help them get more with less. So right now we have a lot of constraints, there's some economic uncertainty, and that can affect the way businesses spend money and they do campaigns. But your company has specialized at Conversion Store with being able to work with people and generate even more from even smaller by being able to really optimize their budgets. Could you talk a little bit more in detail about that, and maybe some of the strategies you've used, and how I know your company uses AI as well to be able to help people manage their finances effectively?
Yeah. It really comes down to budgeting as well too, and I think that's the predominant thing that we're starting to see these last couple of years as we're recording this in the summer of 2025. Is, we have increases in interest rates, we have increases in tariffs, and all sorts of different uncertainty around the trade environment that we're operating in and the business climate that we're operating in. And it makes it harder to be able to raise money for a lot of companies. We've traditionally done a lot of work with SaaS companies and B2B enterprise companies as well too. And a lot of them rely on agreements that are over 10 to 18 months before they're able to see a payback period that pays off some of these contracts. Well, as the interest rate goes up, it makes it more expensive for them to hold those contracts and pay for their software development costs. And that means that you have to go back in and renegotiate. And that's not an easy thing to do. Mm-hmm. So we really try and just hone in on, what is the data that you have, and how can you tailor your messaging so that you're reducing the amount of money that you're spending that's going out to audiences that there's no possible way that they could do business with you. Maybe they don't have the budget. Maybe they're at a different point in time. Maybe they've never gone to your website and the lead scoring tells you that, hey, you need to have an introductory conversation with them, and it might be a year before you're able to close with them. But the opposite way is, what does the lead scoring tell you about who's ready to buy right now? Part of the reason why I got into this business, I was working for a technology company about 15 years ago, and I was a sales rep, and I was falling behind on my quota, Jed. And my sales director says to me, you've got to bring up your numbers. You've got about 10 days left in the month before you can close. Let's go through the pipeline in your CRM and see what deals you have and what the percentage you think are going to complete. Well, these guys sound great and they're amazing and they're in the next, just around the corner, and we think that they're going to close right away. And I've been talking to them. I just can't get to talk to the VP yet, but as soon as I talk to him, they're going to sign on the dotted line and they're going to close. So, okay, that's nice. What about this one? Well, they're about, 65%. We don't know if they're going to close or not, but, look at how big the company is, and if they close, that'll be my numbers for this month and next month. And he goes to me and he says, well, what about this company in South Africa? And I go, yeah, I've been trying to call them, and I've never heard anything from them. And I don't see any opportunity because I can't talk to them. He says, well, you're in Toronto right now, and they're South Africa. What time are you calling them? I don't know. I usually call my hot prospects first thing in the morning to get them right away, and I usually get around to these people maybe around 3 or 4 p.m. Well, in South Africa, they've already gone home. They're already planning dinner. They're in bed. And looks at the lead scoring numbers from their marketing automation system. And he says, well, I'll tell you what, you might not have been able to reach them, but they have been all over our website for the last 3 weeks, all over the place. I want you to get up at 3 in the morning and call this company in Cape Town, South Africa. And it turned out that they were an offshore oil and gas company that had 3 offshore oil and gas platforms. And we sold safety inspection software, which is pretty important to a company in offshore oil and gas. They not only wanted to use this software for all 3 of their platforms, they also wanted to relicense it, to resell it to every mining company, construction company, all across South Africa. So think of like De Beers and the diamond mines and all these other different natural resource places and the money that's involved in that. And that deal completely paid off my undergraduate student loans.
Wow.
And it only happened because I saw the lead scoring data that came in from my marketing automation platform. And I said, this is what I want to get into. I studied, I had a background in marketing and a concentration in management information systems. I'm almost 1 course shy of computer science, Jed. And so I just said, this is what I always wanted to do. I do understand code and, I work in a couple of different marketing automation platforms where you need to do customized HTML and all that other technical stuff. But I wanted to see the output that it drove for people. And for me, being able to pay off my entire undergraduate loans in one deal, well, that was worth it enough. And so that's one of the things that I love doing about this is I help business leaders be able to generate profit, which at the end of the day is what puts food on the table for them and their families. Yep. And it helps bring home and build different businesses, and it helps create all of this growth and value for companies. And that makes me the most happiest, and it's one of the reasons why I do what I do.
That's really great. And you can see it in his attitude because it's always got the best attitude, best workmanship. I mean, it's really a pleasure to work with him and see him speaking here. So if you haven't already, you definitely want to talk with him sometime today if you're here at the conference. But I think that's a really powerful personal story, about how someone can take what seemed to not be a lead and then have that be their number one with the right tactics, the right data, the right campaign, the right mindset. So you're adding all of these expertise level skills to your clients. And helping them to see things in a different way. I think a lot of people get tunnel vision, right? I mean, especially in the marketing world, they have a campaign, they're like, no, I know this campaign's gonna work, and they're like so excited about it, but the data may not always align with what they thought. Sometimes the thing that was like the 3rd or the 4th or the 5th thing that they were like, I don't really know about this one is the one that goes great. So I think that's really powerful. Can you talk a little bit about more how you're implementing AI in your company, and what does the future of marketing look like, and how are you guys staying on like the cutting edge and helping companies be able to use some of these new tools and new technologies?
Yeah, thank you for that question too. And I think that's the hot question, right? Everybody's asking that too as they're kind of looking at their businesses and how they operate. And so, kind of meta in a way, right? We use AI internally, and we're also advising our clients to be able to use AI. One of the things that we really focus on is data-driven marketing. And so we believe that there is a truth in the sense of using generative AI to be able to create marketing content. But, one of the panels that we saw here at DigiMarcon South Atlantic, hashtag DigiMarcon South Atlantic, if you're not following it already, is to be able to use some critical thinking around the content that gets created, right? Don't just kind of dump off tasks to AI and hope that happens. So what we do with it is we actually build our own content, and then we use AI to be able to help us as we're repurposing and we're taking that content out. So, for example, with this conference, helpful working with DigiMarcon in a lot of ways to be able to help recruit trade show exhibitors for Texpo, and then help with some of the speakers and the different talent that exists here in the Carolinas. And all of those are conversations we have. So they might be, half an hour to an hour conversations. And we use AI in order to be able to create an agent that clips a lot of those interviews and then turns them into real content that we can repurpose for different types of format for YouTube, for example. That's also growing as well in terms of our paid media. So like a lot of other companies, we use paid media in a lot of different ways, paid social, and AI helps us to be able to understand, okay, what types of format do we want to position our ads on, or display ads, and what is the audience that we want to build to that as well too. So, we're looking to be able to reach marketing and business executives, and we're looking for people that have a certain size, right? If you have more than 5 employees, then we should be talking, right? And so AI helps us from that standpoint. From our customer standpoint, one of your previous guests in this conference was ActiveCampaign, and we're ActiveCampaign solutions partners, and we work with them to be able to help implement ActiveCampaign across a lot of different places. And you probably heard a lot about some of the feature sets that they're coming out with, being able to take your data and incorporate those into using, action steps inside of your automations to be able to put a prompt into ChatGPT or Claude, and being able to take unstructured data. So let's take your contact us form, Phil, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody has a contact us form, and usually somewhere in there it's comments, and it's one of these, open field text boxes, 5 or 6 things. You could put 50 or 500 characters inside of it. Well, everybody puts something different in that, and it takes a while when you're talking to sales or you're talking to customer success to figure out, well, what do I do with those comments? Yeah. If you can take AI as a really simple example and move that through a prompt, AI will help you to be able to sort those out and then be able to tell you, okay, here are the categories of requests that I've received, and I want to route those to this salesperson or this customer success person, and then have that based on what their capabilities are, so that, at the end of the day, what this is producing is it helps you to make sure that you are presenting your best self to your potential customers. And AI gives you the ability to combine that and some different insight data to be able to kind of understand not just the right person at the right place at the right time, but then to understand the context of the message that I'm giving. And so before this, we had to kind of shoot from the hip and hope that we had the right messaging, and we'd try and get more and more information. Well, AI gives you the ability to be able to take those insights and tailor them even further, much more than we could do as individual humans, to be able to provide more relevance to people.
Yes, that's really great. I think AI is super useful in chewing through huge amounts of data very quickly if it's given the proper directives. If you have someone steering the wheel that really knows what they're doing, that's why you want to partner with people like him who really know what they're doing. And I think that applies to just about all aspects of AI, because even if you're using AI for, let's say, you're writing a piece of music or something, and anybody could just say, oh, I want a song that sounds silly or happy or goofy or whatever. But a professional composer would go, nope, I want it in the key of G, and the 5th measure, we're going to transition into 3/4 meter, and I want the style to be of Brahms brass, but I want the percussion to be, like Prokofiev's Second Symphony or something. You can get like really, really detailed nuance and get something masterful. So I think that AI is really the great augmenter, and companies like yours that are using that already are really way ahead of the curve, that those that are just now implementing or haven't really thought to that level of usage. So I think that's fantastic that you're jumping in on the game early. And I think it's also great that those of you that are here at DigiMarcon are spending this time to connect and network with other people, because that's really where the synergy is. Just as you mentioned, you work with Active Campaign, and I interviewed them earlier, but I think that's really where we're starting to see magic, is multiple companies specializing in different things coming together and then using those AIs to augment what they do. We're getting some really amazing results.
Yeah, that's really one of the things about marketing automation in particular, is a lot of ways, marketing automation is a lot of ways the hub and the spoke of the different wheel of marketing tactics that you can use. So it really puts you at the epicenter of what's happening inside of your business and your promotional activities. So I love it because it gives us a really great standpoint to be able to kind of understand, what one tool is telling you. So let's say that you run webinars, or you're running this podcast, right? Is the transcript from this podcast is data and insight information that can be easily enriched to be able to use that to be able to provide more intelligent conversations when you're following up with a phone call or an email follow-up, right? And those are two disparate, completely different platforms that all marketers use I shouldn't say all marketers, but many marketers use in many different areas of their business. But it depends on what your business is, right? So if I'm selling cars, I'm going to have a different set of tools than if I'm selling enterprise software, than if I'm selling cans of tomatoes on a grocery shelf, right?
Yes.
And that's one of those, or music, actually, frankly. I worked at Red.com in the early 2010s, actually. That was heavily used by all of the major record labels. And, the insights that they got helped them to be able to deliver music to program and music directors and radio stations all across America. Those are different types of insights that there's so many program and music directors and so many different radio affiliates across the country that it's hard for any one particular talent manager or a A&R person in the music industry to be able to understand, okay, here's the artist that I have and here's the genre that I think that they're best suited for. How do I get them the right amount of airplay in that time? And those are real world situations that AI helps us to move to solve and answer.
Yeah, I really like that as a musician and composer myself, so that makes sense. And you can see real tangible examples of how this is moving. On that, are there any particular maybe companies you work with or certain campaigns you've been involved with that you want to talk about, either specifically or generically, that were exciting for you, where you saw some real-world major improvements? I know you mentioned that one very specific example of how one client was able to pay off your whole student loan debt, which is amazing. Do you have any other stories like that you could share?
Right. Well, in fairness, the student loan debt helped me more than it helped them in a lot of ways, right? But I think, a couple of big highlights come into play. One of the things that I started off with, this is a while ago, but I helped Microsoft actually in a very junior role, or starting out with their content syndication, but they had a marketing automation platform, Marketo, which I was a member of the Marketo Champion class of 2021, which is the top 40 experts worldwide that help to advocate the platform. And so Microsoft had a Marketo instance in every single line of business. So they had one for Microsoft Office, one for Microsoft Xbox, one for Microsoft servers, Windows, etc. And this project, we helped them to be able to combine all of those into one global demand center, and it won an award for the best Marketo implementation for that year. So this was a little while ago, but really impactful there. And then another one, won't really mention this company, but they're in the manufacturing space. They had 600 dealerships throughout the country, and basically helped them to be able to amalgamate. All of the 600 dealers are independent mom and pop shops. They have their own companies, they have their own websites, they have their own databases. And I architected the platform that basically took the leads from each of those websites, from each of those different domain names, and then allowed them to be able to kind of combine that so that you're doing marketing and advertising to the right person in that right market. So if you're, Jim and Dan's dealership in Peoria, and you're, Ben and Jerry's in Connecticut, you're getting, the same type of information basically that is coming back into the central database, and that's able to kind of help you to learn and understand how customers interact and engage with different pieces of marketing that are coming out, and what can you do with that. Well, it gives you the insights as an individual dealership to then say, I have a catalog of different types of advertising and marketing that I know will work in this circumstance and I know won't work in this circumstance. And how do I make the most out of the situation that I have in my marketplace? How do I listen for the signals to understand maybe my company is brand new in a brand new corner of the United States and I don't know how to engage new customers? Well, this dealership from 6 months ago just did an implementation with a similar type of a marketplace that they were brand new at, and here's the results that they drove. And it's that road ahead that a lot of business owners are trying to understand, right? It's like driving driving at night with your headlights off and turning them on. And that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to turn on the headlights so that you as a business owner can kind of see the road ahead and understand the right path that you should take in order to get success in your business.
I think that is a really good analogy. I like that a lot. For any of those of us that do long road trips, like setting and tearing down Digimarcon and traveling across state lines, yeah, there's a lot of that. And that's a beautiful analogy for everything. Well, I think it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Fun fact, this is actually Michael Tucker's first podcast ever. So you've done many other like video related things, but this is like the first podcast. So what a pleasure it is to have you on this podcast. Give him a hand. Yeah, thank you so much, Michael. And we'll see you again next time.